Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am, the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I'm from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos, as you probably expect at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and finally the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we've essentially managed able to continue exploring the forms of Iris' Island by able to actually go ahead and deal with the forms of that particular, you know what I'm saying about the forms of the memory tokens grinding, and on top of all that stuff though, it was about the fact that we actually did all kinds of stuff here and there. So even then though, not much else to tell at this point, because I know for a fact that it's been about almost like 6 days ago since we've last played this game for sure, and that's a perfect example of why of this though, and that's because about the fact that, well, relatively speaking though, it's about the fact that today for this video is about the fact that we'll be able to actually continue exploring the forms of Iris Island to do, you know what I'm saying about the fact that we still need to able to obtain some more memory tokens, and on top of that, we might able to actually start able to be doing the action chain challenges every once in a while, just to ensure about the fact that we'll show up some more, you know, content and stuff like that, especially concerning about the particular point there is actually that particular useful reward if you do manage to able to accomplish every single action chain challenges in the entire S rank front, so just to ensure about the fact that you probably already know what's to be coming. So even then though, yeah, as I mentioned this before, it's about the fact that it's been about 6 days ago since I actually have last played this on the PS4 version most notably. That's just mainly because about the fact that recently I somehow managed to go back into this game on the Switch version of my own time, and because of that though, I've recently managed able to gather every single completion rate. Like, for instance, I pretty much crowned every single island, so as a result, that pretty much gives me yet another reward. But I think it's probably best if we're able to actually save that particular topic once we're able to actually get into that particular process. Well, it wasn't until likely also the next couple of days, that's the only thing. That's the prime example about the fact that this also is the reason why that this entire process might take a bit while to able to actually get this up and running for the likes of the forms of Sonic Frontiers continuation parts. Although except for the fact that, well, we're still able to actually be waiting for the third and final free DLC update for Sonic Frontiers, so just to ensure about the fact that maybe there's a possibility that we could potentially try to able to show one glimpse of it though, while not the entire playthrough throughout just yet, mainly because during at some point during this October, there will be a special month off series as far as I'm concerned. So, but even then though, just to make things a little bit more fitting, for the sake of the forms of the Halloween themed kind of games or something like that, which I'm probably not going to be able to spoil things too much, I must be quite frank for this point, so even then though, yeah. So yeah, today's date of course is the 9th of September today, in some cases in 2023 today, and did you know it's been about a year ago since when Splatoon 3 for the Nintendo Switch has been released. And as a result, while looking back on Splatoon 3, it still looks very awesome even to this day, so as a result it feels more likely a spiritual successor or a sequel to the forms of Splatoon 2, and as a result we're now getting the DLC for the sake of the forms of Splatoon 3. Like, we've already got one ever since in March, so hopefully we're able to actually get ourselves the side order trailer for possibly for the forms of the September Nintendo Direct, if it's possible or not. But then again though, we'll find out some more details about that particular topic once we're able to get to that specific point worth noting for when it comes to more accurately, you know, slowly processing during the forms of that particular September month, because as far as you probably already know, that recently that apparently Ray did somehow told me about the fact that apparently I was going to be invited to that particular mini holiday break at some point during the forms of being the 11th of September all the way up to the 13th of September, usually stay for 3 nights, and because of that though, I'm actually up for it, especially because I'm very excited, able to actually just take a nice little holiday break once again, at least in every sense during the forms of in March this year, despite the fact that how miserable the weather condition is sometimes. Although, usually relatively speaking though, the only problem I have with the previous holiday break for this year so far, and that's what had to be by the forms of the strong wind, which as a result, it feels very consistent with that particular wind in mind. But regardless of such though, is about the fact that we'd still have a great time when it comes to likely experiencing that particular things itself, all things considered. So, but I digress. See, there's also another explanation I should probably explain about this right from the start though, is about the fact that, well, remember how Ray the Flying Squirrel has briefly mentioned about this, about the fact that it's been about 34 years ago since when the Super Mario Bros. Super show has been first came out, ever since in 1989. Well, as it turns out, during the informs of recently, since during the informs have been a couple of days ago, potentially speaking, is that the actual cartoon series called The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog has officially became 3 decades old. And while looking back on it though, it's pretty bizarre as well. Mainly because of the forms of some wacky environments they somehow managed to take place into. And on top of all that stuff, there's also the Sonic says in every single epilogues during the forms of in each and every single episode. So I believe in that though. And also I feel like about the fact that the actual the art style feels a bit out of whack to me though. Well, that's just mainly because I'm more into the forms of other shows like Sonic Boom and recently Sonic Prime and Sonic SatAM, or specifically Sonic the Hedgehog. So, but even then though, that's as far as I can usually think about this for the sake of time. Although I do remember about the fact that whenever I used to watch that particular, you know, The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog show, as far as this is concerned, that usually airs in during the forms of Pop TV, or to be more specifically, the actual TV channel called Pop. Yeah, that's literally how that particular channel was named, by the way. Which, that was also applied to the forms of I usually managed able to saw only one episode during the forms within Kirby Right Back At Ya, and during the forms within a Pop TV channel, which that was pretty rare for what I've encountered, and during the forms within the UK's broadcasting. So, but even then though, that's actually pretty swell, if I have to say so. So, but even then though, oh yeah, let's talk about the forms of something related to the fact that, as far as what Ray the Flying Squirrel has technically already mentioned about this ever since in, well, you probably already know about the fact that recently we've now finally finished up the rest of the forms of the Super Mario RPG Let's Play. So as a result, I kind of believe it's been about a thrill ride when it comes to able to tackle for not only for yet another Mario Let's Play, but also the very first RPG game for it in terms of Let's Plays department that we somehow completed it. So as a result, God knows if what we're going to be doing next for the sake of the forms of the actual RPG games we're going to be doing next, because as a result, it's most notably focusing on, you know, for the majority of the Mario stuff, and especially noticeable because relatively speaking, I was just, well, it's one of the actual boost the actual audience for the sake of the forms of their first experience seeing of how RPG gaming plays out to be. So, but even then though, oh yeah, let's talk about the forms of that particular other topics worth noting for, and that's what appears to be about the fact that, well, as far as what Ray has already explained about this, ever since it during the forms of the finale video, for the sake of the forms of, you know, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, well, it seems to be more specifically about the fact that obviously we're able to have ourselves not 1, but 4 brand new games has recently just been revealed during the forms of that particular Nintendo Switch Online subscription services. So, one of them is obviously the Super Nintendo game, which is of course Kirby Star Stacker, which I think is probably best for me to able to actually mention more about it during at some point during the forms event tomorrow for the sake of time, because as it turns out, it's about the fact that there are some another topics I would like to able to point things out, like for instance, about the fact that there was this new series called Spy Kids, specifically the rebooted version of Spy Kids, and as it turns out it's going to be releasing at some point on Netflix, or to be more specifically, the actual thing itself is called Spy Kids Armageddon, and basically that particular series will be released on Netflix during at some point on September 22nd, so that's roughly the exactly same day as in Pikmin 1 plus 2 physical version on the Switch. So, but even then, no, that's saying something. Oh, and on top of all that stuff, though, is about the fact that, well, when it comes to everything else I could possibly explain about this, is that speaking of something related to the anniversaries department, it's been 25 years ago since this particular quiz show called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Anyway, bad impression with that particular intro song, by the way. But even then, though, yeah, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire has officially became 25 years old since 1998. So yeah, time flies, you know. Especially concerning about the particular point that we've already celebrated the 25th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Well, I would save about the fact that that will come until the later, because obviously about the fact that we're not exactly at November just yet, along with the Forms of Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped and all that stuff. So, but even then though, I suppose we're able to save that particular topic once we get to the later portion of that particular, 2023 year in mind. So, anyway though, and despite the fact that I've never actually watched any of those episodes for the likes of the forms of, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but I do know for certain for one thing, they obviously did manage to bring the video game tie-ins for the sake of the forms of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire from like PlayStation 1, Sega Dreamcast, Nintendo Wii, if I'm assuming so, as well as any other systems for that matter. So, but even then though, yeah, that might be the reason for it as far as I heard about that particular quiz show as far as this is concerned. So, but even then though, yeah, there's also another thing I should probably mention about this as well. That's what appears to be about the fact that out of nowhere, is that we're about to be getting a Barbie game on the Nintendo Switch, along with any other platforms as well, as far as I'm concerned. Like, obviously about the fact that it's going to be made by the forms of Budget, as far as I'm concerned, who also did the forms of several of My Little Pony games on the smartphones, specifically Harmony Quest and Rainbow Runners, but even then, that might be a topic for a later time. So, as a result of that particular matter though, the game is going to call it Barbie Adventures, Barbie Dreamhouse Adventures. So, I almost said things a little bit opposite at this point, especially most of all because I know for a fact I don't usually watch too much Barbie stuff, apart from that particular cool character appearances in Trinity forms in Toy Story 2, 3, and it's kind of a shame about the fact that she's now been downgraded into the forms of Toy Story 4, but that's just mainly because about the fact that, well, everything else changed every once in a while, so but even then, no. Also, I should probably want to classify for something about this as well. It's about the fact that, like I mentioned this before, it's about the fact that we're probably not going to upload anything on the 11th of September all the way up to the 13th of September. But I do know for certain for one thing is about the fact that obviously the Apple event is just around the corner. So but even then though, I suppose we're able to actually save that particular topic once we're able to actually just to like, continue things on in Sonic Frontiers. And for the majority of the time for the uploading schedules department is that I get the strong sense of feeling that we might able to actually start focusing on Sonic Frontiers from now on, and then occasional moments whenever we decide to do Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, if Silver is about to be ready to able to tackle through the hardest difficulty setting in Super Monkey Ball 2 Challenge Mode. But even then though, I suppose that can wait and drain at some point, once me and Mighty and Ray, as well as the girls, so but even then though, we should probably expect about the fact that we are very excited able to actually take our mini holiday break once again, as far as we've already pointed things out already. So, but even then, no. So yeah, in terms of the forms of the game selections they've got for the recent updates, or specifically the game updates, for the sake of the forms of the Nintendo Switch online subscription services for not only for the Super Nintendo, but also on the NES or Nintendo Entertainment System, as well as the forms of the Game Boy lineup. That, as far as what Ray has already explained about this, one of those Kirby games has actually been added, called Kirby Star Stacker, which is used to be the Japanese exclusive game on the Super Famicom, but now it's been finally become playable in the UK account, for the sake of the forms of how the fact that despite you have to deal with the forms of the Japanese translation, just like the forms of how it does it on Hamel D-Palm, as far as I can recall anyway. And on top of all that stuff, that was about the fact that when it comes to the only new Game Boy Color game that have been added for the Game Boy game selections, as far as I'm concerned, and that's for whatever reason, Quest for Camelot, which is obviously based off from the 1998 movie, which is pretty much the same thing, but except the fact that it plays more accurately like a Zelda clone. at least as far as I can gather. But even then though, I suppose that particular topic that can wait for a later time. But anyway, in terms of the other 2 games they've been added, which they are both on the NES of all things, one of them which appears to be by the forms of, I would say, both of those games are usually Japanese exclusive at one point. Seriously, not only do we get ourselves the 1 English game, but also 3 Japanese games as a result. Like we already mentioned about the forms of, you know, Kirby's Star Stacker, and on top of that, there's also Downtown Niketsu March. Super awesome field day. I think that's what it says anyway. And finally, the forms of Mech Fights. So as a Joy Mech Fights. Oh, I missed that particular Joy bit, by the way. But that's okay, because even then though, yeah, it's pretty cool to able to actually see some more games here and there. But I feel like it's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to the actual selection so far. Although, relatively speaking though, we might able to actually hear something new for the sake of the forms of either the N64 game or the Game Boy Advance game to be on there for the sake of the forms of later on in September. I'm hoping about the fact that maybe Mario Party 3 will finally become editable for the sake of the forms of that particular, well, you know what I'm saying. So, but even then though. Anyway, so let's go ahead and tackle for the forms of one of those challenges as far as, you know, action chain challenges as far as I'm concerned. But that again though is about the fact that this is also another reason why that this particular process of the continuation parts of Sonic Frontiers might take a bit forever at this point, mainly because of the amount of retries I have to put up with it during the course of the S-ranked run, for the sake of the forms of trying to able to accomplish the actual action chain challenges as far as I'm concerned. So, but even then though, you guys are able to master the forms of certain layouts you're gonna have to go backtrack for, especially because about the fact that you also need to obtain the insane amount of those yellow orbs as much as you can, so just in case you can actually build up your combo meter. So, but even then though, because if you mess up at one point, then obviously your combo meter will be empty. And on top of that, you guys are able to just, well, keep on farming for the sake of the forms of trying to build up your combo meter. So, and obviously the more points you get, then obviously you will be able to actually get a better chance to able to actually achieve the actual S rank. So, and also I don't suppose if you noticed is about the fact that recently during the forms of in today's weather forecast recently, my goodness, it's actually getting ridiculously hot at some form or another. Like, obviously a good thing is about the fact that we still managed to get ourselves a mini hot tub, so just in case I can able to actually fill some great fresh of water, even though despite I hate water so much, unlike you know, any other like characters like Mario, Luigi, they don't mind water, but I'm the only exception to that rule. So because of that, because I just can't swim. So either way though, yeah, in terms of the forms of other topics I would like to mention about this as well, is that for whatever reason, is that Warner Brothers Discovery will lose $300 million to $500 million this year because of the strikes. It keeps on fighting. So because of that though, yeah, it seems about the fact that at this point in time, everything else gets a lot more complicated than it looks. Especially concerning about the particular point that everything else about the forms of some events just feels a bit not that right when it comes to likely for its other stuff worth noting for. Oh, and let's talk about the forms of yet another anniversary thing that's already been came up. That's what appears to be there's a cartoon series called Oogie and the Cockroaches. Yeah, that particular show itself has officially also became 25 years old. So as a result about that particular point, I've heard about it, but I've never actually watched any of those episodes in my opinion, mainly because I'm more into like Disney stuff. So, but even then though, yeah, because chances are though is about the fact that I usually just somehow refer to like, well, at this point in time is about the fact that, oh yeah, I should probably also want to address something about this as well, is that recently, Elemental is about to coming out on Disney Plus until the 13th of September. So I think it's going to be most notably on the North American version of it, because I don't think the UK version is probably going to show up anytime soon. That's just because about the fact that the UK's version of that particular film did came out later on during the films upon the big screen, but at the very least we still managed to able to get ourselves a DVD physical release at some point during the films in October the 16th, if I'm assuming so, a day before Sonic Superstars. I almost said Super Mario for some reason, but it's been more specifically 4 days before Super Mario Bros. Wonder will be releasing during that week as well. So, alongside with, of course, Insomniac Games, Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 5, and yeah, you probably get the idea about that. So, but still, I'm very excited able to actually give that film a chance, especially noticeable because I've never actually get a chance to able to see it on the big screen. Kind of unfortunate though, because it seems it's pretty cool as a film itself, although some people might find this a little bit more of a cliche or something like that. But regardless of such though, I'm curious able to actually just to give that particular film a chance, so... Anyway though, in terms of other stuff worth noting for, I still managed able to go back into Mario Kart Tour, and luckily, I somehow managed to get myself a Gold Wiggler character, and because of that, thank goodness it's not locked out behind the forms of that stupid ranked cup, although, there is that one particular part exception to this, and that's what appears to be by the forms of Wild Wiggler cards. So, no idea why that particular card has been locked out behind the ranked cups. But speaking of that though, it's about the fact that I suppose there's also another reward that you do get if you somehow manage able to conquer the actual tier system of the ranked cups. And for some reason they decided able to bring back Yellow Toad Pit Crew for some reason, which technically we've already got it ever since in the past few years, specifically since in 2021, because obviously in 2020 I give up on that particular game because it keeps on crashing all the time, injuring the forms of iPhone 6. Seriously, you should probably able to not recommend getting the actual downgraded phones these days, especially noticeable if you keep on playing Mario Kart Tour in a downgraded phone. My god, you have to come across into a lot of game crashes, and also not to mention though, a lot of slowdown here and there as well, which I'm guessing because of how the fact that because of the limitations of the graphics powerhouse, compared to the phones of how it does it on the later models for the iPhones, so that's probably just what I was thinking about it anyway, so... And in addition to that, I also managed able to get myself my light blue Mii racing suit as well. Although I was originally trying to able to get myself the orange Mii racing suit from the previous tour, but as it turns out about the fact, it's a good thing I did somehow manage to save up some of these rupees for, you know, the current event, or specifically the current tour as of now, which is of course the Sunday tour as we expected, so everything else will become to expect at that point. So, and so far I'm actually quite impressed of how the fact that with the remakes Vanilla Lake 2 plays out to be, because you literally driving inside the actual igloo sometimes. So even though I consider this to be the greatest highlight for the sake of the Monster Sunday tour as far as I'm concerned. So but even then though, oh, in addition to that, in terms of the forms of how many stuff I've got for Mario Kart Tour as of now, I've so far got myself 161 drivers now, so I'm almost nearly at the forms of 200 drivers or more, and yeah, it's actually gone pretty swell. And in terms of cards, I've got about 164 cards, and finally for gliders, I haven't got that much though, just only 107, but that's just mainly because, much like the cards themselves, normally I don't usually spend on rupees to able to actually get not only cards, but also with gliders as well, because usually, relatively speaking though, I always care for the forms of, you know, drivers or characters, whatever you want to be more specific with it. It doesn't matter if it's either be the cosmetic character, or to be more specifically with the forms of the Mii racing suits, depending on the forms of special items they somehow contained. So, but I digress. So, oh yeah, and talking of which, when it comes to the forms of DLC, all things considered, unfortunately though, there are some bad news I would like to able to point things out, and that's what appears to be about the fact that, sadly to tell you, that The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is probably not going to be having any DLC. Not exactly sure why that maybe seems to be the case. Although, relatively speaking, that was about the fact that they've got no plans to able to release the DLC for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe they will do at some point, but even I know at the moment they have no plans to able to actually work on it right now. Or perhaps even maybe they're trying to work on the next Zelda game at some point on the next generation of consoles or something like that. But then again though, we're still in 2023 after all, so the expectations might think about it's a little bit too early to say this, but even then though, I suppose we'll find out during the future times, specifically during the course of it not only in 2024, but maybe eventually in 2025. So, speaking of 2025 actually, from what I've heard anyway, I don't think that about the fact that E3 is not going to be taking place in 2024, which is to be expected because of how the fact that they seem to have a lot of struggles at that point. But at the very least, maybe there's a potential we can able to actually expect able to make the E3 announcements to happen during the course of it in 2025, assuming of course about the fact that that will mark the let's just say presumably the 30th anniversary of the E3 announcements as far as presentations as far as I'm concerned. Although that again though, I suppose my speculations are filled a bit mixed bag as a result, mainly because about the fact that, geez, the weather condition is super duper hot once again. Although, relatively speaking, it was about the fact that I suppose we're still on the forms of been technically the autumn season, but it's just one of those rare occurrences where basically that the weather conditions just feels a bit, well, kind of unpredictable at times. So, but even then though, that it's kind of sad about the fact that once we move on to next week or so, in terms of the forms of weather conditions, it will be kind of sad to able to miss the actual, like, sunny days, specifically with all that heat wave that's been going on in, not only for the likes of the UK, but from what I can tell with the America as well. So, but even then, no, yeah, it's kind of feels a bit kind of random at one point, especially concerning about the fact that I suppose that it really doesn't bother me too much though, because even then though, despite the fact that I have to keep on utilizing the actual sun cream protection so I don't usually get burned during the course of in my stomach or my arms and legs, you name it. So, but even then though, that's as far as I can usually think about that. So, anywho though, there's also another thing I should probably explain about this as well, is that, well, apparently though, what I've noticed is that one of those questions by Magic Guys 709, he seems to able to actually answer, asks the question saying that how many Power Stars and Green Stars are in total in both the Super Mario Galaxy games. Usually means Super Mario Galaxy 1 and Super Mario Galaxy 2 combined. And as it turns out, I predicted that it's gonna be, well, 484 stars in total with both games. So, because it seems very obvious about the fact that you obviously do come across into 121 Power Stars for not only for Mario, but also for Luigi as well in Galaxy 1, whilst in Galaxy 2, not only do you have to come across into 122 regular Power Stars, but 120 Green Stars. So, yep, I did the math, and sure enough, I'm pretty good at maths. So, you know, because, you know, gotta go fast when it comes to likely predicting that particular answer. So, but even then though, yeah, chances are though is about the fact that, yeah, it's definitely true. It's likely, 484 Power Stars in the entire Super Mario Galaxy games. So, pretty insane if you ask me. Oh yeah, and there's also another set of games that's about to be coming up during at some point in possibly by the end of 2023. Like one of them is actually called Let's Sing 2024. That's to be expecting to be released on the Switch at some point in this year. And yeah, I've got no comment for this point. Although there's also another game called I would say if the actual thing decides to able to there we go. There's a next game called Plate Up. And that's been confirmed for November's release date for the sake of the forms of maybe for the Switch or multi-platforms for that matter. But even then, no, that's as far as I can usually try to describe about that particular game. So, speaking of something related to games, on the other hand, I can't believe by saying this, it's been 2 years ago, since Journey Forms have been 2 days ago, potentially speaking, it's been 2 years ago since when Sonic Colors Ultimate came out, not only on the PlayStation 4, but also on Xbox One/Series X, depending on the forms of backwards compatibility kind of situations like that, and also on the Switch and Epic Store, which as a result, while looking back on Sonic Colors even today, well, specifically Sonic Colors Ultimate, to be more specifically, it's alright. I mean, it's not the best version I've ever played when it comes to like Sonic Colors as a result. That still honor goes to the original Wii version just because of the challenge, and also the soundtrack is super remarkable. on the original Wii version, because I don't know about you, I just kind of did not like the actual remix music sometimes, especially noticeable because it never sounds quite the same. Although, luckily, it only happens once in Journey Forms within each act, as far as I'm concerned, usually for the sake of the forms of Act 1, 2, and 3. So relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, well, I'm sure there might be is about the fact that everyone else does have their own different opinions, for the sake of the forms of which specific music types do you prefer. So even then though, it's very understandable for the sake of the forms of nostalgia-based kind of syndrome or something like that, when it comes to like not only for Sonic Colors Ultimate, but also with Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, Mario Party Superstars, and you name the rest. So, but anywho though, in terms of other stuff I would like to point things out as well, is that potentially speaking, there is also the point where basically there's also like there's also another game that's going to be releasing at some point in October as well. That's what it appears to be called, Transformers Earthspark Expedition. So it's going to be releasing on October sometime. So, but even then, I'm not exactly sure when exactly. But that's just because about the fact I've never actually watched Transformers in my life, especially because I'm more into like anything else in general, as far as you can definitely tell from that particular intro sequences for, you know, every single Demexi Toys videos these days since in 2017 and onwards. So, although technically we were expecting to also include the 2014 intro, but I must be quite frank at this point, that particular intro is now being outdated, especially noticeable because the quality is not that very good. So as a result, maybe I'm not able to try to fix that at some point for, I don't know about you, because it has been about quite a few days since I actually did done some of my commentary at this point in time, after the events of what Ray the Flying Squirrel has already mentioned about a lot of stuff during the forms of its Super Mario RPG Let's Play that he obviously already finished at, so. And sadly to tell you is about the fact I don't think it's a possibility we can able to actually end off this particular Sonic Frontiers Let's Play on specifically during the forms within September, but that's just because, and same applies with October as well, but that's just because about the fact that, as I said before, there will be a special surprise during the forms within the Mexi Toys department during at some point on October, just to match the actual Halloween theme that's been going on. So, but then again though, it's all I can really say about that, I guess. So, but either way though, man, I really love this particular music in the background as far as I've already set this up. Especially noticeable because that is definitely matches the entire environment pretty well and pretty nicely at the same time, because we're still practically going to be exploring through around the desert somewhere. So but even then though, it makes a little bit more sense to be able to actually think about for the sake of that particular track choice. So, anywho though, so I suppose there's another explanation I should probably think about this as well, is that, well, for what I've double checked, that's what appears to be about the fact that, well, it seems to be more specifically, there's also another game that's been announced, for the Nintendo Switch anyway, and that's what it appears to be called Retro Game Challenge 1+2 Replay. So as a result, yeah, I think it's about to be released at some point in, let's just say, I think that's as far as I can say about that, although I haven't exactly followed the actual release dates on that front, but I do know for certain for one thing is that there is a game called, as I said before, Barbie Dreamhouse Adventures is going to be releasing on the Switch on the 27th of October for this year, which is roughly about a week after the Super Mario Bros. Wonder game. So, but even then though, yeah, that's what I could really think about that when it comes to likely just trying to able to discuss upon that Barbie video game as I was being on about. Especially concerning about that particular point, that particular new Barbie film has recently became the #1 box office right now for 2023, which I felt was a little bit shocking. Especially, I was expecting about the fact that Mario will easily dominate it, but it might be a bit too late now, especially concerning about the particular point that everything else needs to move on, especially noticeable they need to work on other projects during that time, even for specifically during at some point in Journey forms have been, you know, 2024 and 2025, you name the rest. So, oh yeah, let's talk about the forms of that particular element that I'm very excited to talk about. That's what appears to be about the fact that yes, there was a new trailer that just came up for the sake of the films of Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, and I'm very, very excited about that particular film still, especially because, you know, it's been about 23 years ago since the first film came out, and relatively speaking, though, despite it's going to be a Netflix exclusive film, as far as currently, as of now, much like the films of how it does it on My Little Pony, A New Generation, and especially noticeable with the majority of Sonic Prime as the TV series as far as I'm concerned, or Netflix series for that matter, so but even then though, and one thing that honestly did actually caught me off guard, that's what appears to be about the fact that there was actually a returning villain from the first film, which, as it turns out, is Mrs. Tweedy. Yeah, apparently she's back for revenge. I almost assume it's gonna be Dr. Fry, but as it turns out, Mrs. Tweedy is actually back for revenge, which I almost assume about the fact that maybe, I have no idea that if Mr. Tweedy will make his appearance, but I suppose we'll find out more details about that once that particular film comes out on Netflix, and roughly during the films have been, you know, December 15th, so it's roughly about 10 days before Christmas Day in Journey Films have been 2023, which it was pretty incredible, I might add. And I think that was actually roughly the exactly same day as when, presumably speaking, the 1-year anniversary of the release of Sonic Prime TV series, as far as I'm concerned. So, but even then, no, that must have been said something. And also, I love the fact that during the course within the structure of Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget might go for a complete opposite direction this time around. Because I believe in the first film, they're trying to break out the forms of, you know, Mrs. Tweedy's farm. So as a result, in the Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget film, this time around though, they're about to break in. So even then though, specifically the flock of chickens, to be more specifically, for, you know, Ginger, and also Mac, and Babs, and even Rocky, the rooster, and even especially noticeable with the forms of Nick and Fetcher as well, as far as I'm concerned with that. So, but even then, no, still, I'm very excited for that particular film is about to be releasing during at some point, and as I said before, the midway portion of December, so, but even then, no, I suppose I'll probably get to more details about the films of my first thoughts of that for that particular film, but not now anyway, just because obviously not only the film hasn't came out yet on Netflix, but also it might contain some bit of spoilers if I somehow mention about some bits here and there, so but even then no. Let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Are you guys excited, able to actually finally get a chance to see, you know what I'm saying about the fact that with Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nuggets is about to be coming out on Netflix? Because I am very excited for it. Even though that the voice cast is a bit weird to able to get used to it, especially noticeable because I'm pretty much used to with the films within the first film's voice casts. Like for instance with Mel Gibson as Rocky the Rooster, and relatively speaking, it's just about the fact that it might take a bit of some time to get used to once the actual film comes out. So even though that must have been said something. So I'm not exactly sure if the DVD and Blu-ray release will make it happen for Dawn of the Nugget, because it did say about the fact that it did say Netflix exclusive as of now. So maybe they'll try to able to actually come up something like that, much like the films of how it does it for the likes of the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on a Run, which, by the way, that film is actually my least favorite films of the films of SpongeBob movies out of the 3, because I still, personally speaking, though, prefer the first film over the likes of the second one or the third one. I will say that the second one is okay, but the first film, oh man, it's such a masterpiece for the first film. And on top of all that stuff though, the third film is pretty lackluster in my opinion, especially noticeable because gee, no wonder why nobody cares about the films of Sponge on the Run anymore. Mainly because of this lackluster plot, and on top of that, a rehashed storyline based off of one of those episodes in the old SpongeBob episodes, which you probably already know what I'm talking about. And personally speaking though, I just think that, you know, Sponge on the Run, aside from the fact that the visual presentation looks stunning, but it's just about the fact I feel like that film is pretty much dull now. So because of that though, which that could be also applies in 3D films of, you know, Lightyear movie in my opinion, especially noticeable because it just feels nothing like the films of how it does it when I was expecting it. So, or maybe I'm biased I guess when it comes to likely preferring other stuff worth noting for, but that might be seems to be a piece of cake as far as, or just anything else to be more specific, so. Oh, wait a minute. As far as I've just realized something is about the fact that in terms of the runtime of Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget, if you're probably wondering how long that film will actually took for the sake of the forms of the runtime, it's actually going to be slightly longer than the forms of how it does on the first one. Like, I believe in the first one, it only took about, like, let's just say, 84 minutes or something like that. Whilst in Chicken Run Dawn of the Nuggets this time around, it's probably going to take about 98 minutes this time around. So it's almost like, almost 2 hours-ish or something like that, or almost 100 minutes. So I think that was actually a pretty good length, especially noticeable. It's almost like the exactly the same film's length as the films of how it does it on My Little Pony the movie, alongside with the films of presumably the Super Mario Bros. Movie, alongside with the films of Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie, specifically the first one, not the second one, because the second one did manage to able to have like 2 hours and 2 minutes runtime on the second Sonic movie. So I'm curious to know about the fact that until next year in 2024, I'm not exactly sure what runtime they were able to contain for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, but I suppose we'll also find out more details about that during at some point in 2024, so I believe in that note, but it might be a bit too early to say for this point right now, just because, you know, the writer's strike has been going on at this for the sake of time, so I believe in that note. Kinda sucks though if that seems to be happening, so I believe even then no. That's as far as I can usually think about that, so... Well, as it turns out, it's about the fact that we've almost nearly at the end for able to actually complete everything in Iris Island, as far as you can definitely tell from the sake of time. So, because obviously, sometimes though, I will admit though, like I said before, trying to find those specific character memory tokens specifically, it might take a bit while to able to find, mainly because the only hint I can probably think about it is most notably because the forms of the weird pop-in stuff, which as a result, not exactly sure of how do I explain about this, is that every time whenever you go into like, depending on what distance you go into, sometimes the pop-in might occasionally becomes visible, whilst other times though is about the fact you have to take a massive guess of how you're able to actually exactly try to able to get those memory tokens as far as I'm concerned. But you know, sometimes it's about the fact that certain placements can be felt a bit pain at times, even especially noticeable. It's just a very, wow, it's hard to explain really, because again, it's been 6 days ago since I've last played this. Maybe at some point, once we're able to actually, like, gone back from the likes of the forms of small holiday break, at some point in during the forms have been, the 14th of September, I suppose I'm also able to actually get on focusing on the continuation of loading schedules for, you know what I'm saying, with the forms of Sonic Frontiers for right now, so just in case we can able to do a massive catch-up, just in case before the actual, the third and final free DLC update is going to be on the horizon. So I believe in that now, get it because the forms of the final horizons or something like that. I forget about that particular pawn earlier, so I believe in that now. I should also mention about this as well, it's about the fact that it looks like that not only does Chicken Run Dawn of the Nuggets will be releasing on the 15th of September in worldwide, but as it turns out, it's about the fact that the film is also getting a secondary release date, but to be more specifically, it did somehow send us a early release date, but with the actual bracket saying BFI, at least as far as I'm aware. So I believe in that note that I suppose I'm also able to actually research on that. At some point, whenever as it turns out, it's actually going to be called the forms of London Film Festival. So I believe in that note, that's the primary example I was thinking about that anyway. So yeah, I'm still very excited about that film. It's going to be coming out on, you know, December. So yeah, it's very shocking to able to see Mrs. Tweety to somehow come back. And especially noticeable, as I said before, maybe she wants revenge or something. But that again, though, we're probably not going to be able to mention more details about the actual topics worth noting for until for now. Because obviously about the fact that we still got a whole ways to go. Even especially noticeable that we've only almost got about 3 months left until that particular film decides able to be released on Netflix. So, and I suppose the last thing I want to mention about this as well is about the fact that it looks like about the fact that there's a yet another Nintendo Switch bundle with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, except this time it appears to be by the forms of a model that is actually based off on version 2 improvement battery life for the Nintendo Switch. And on top of that, the free downloadable code for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And on top of that, there's also the 3-month subscription for it, for, you know, Nintendo Switch Online. So, gee, no wonder why that particular Mario Kart 8 Deluxe gets a lot more popular these days. Especially noticeable is about the fact that I'm pretty sure that particular game is actually now onto the halfway point in terms of reaching 100 million copies sold or something like that. I suppose time will tell. So with that being said though, I think we should probably end things off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers, and that's what appears to be about the fact that we still need to continue exploring for the forms of Iris Island to grab some more memory tokens, and maybe we can able to decide to do some action chain challenges here and there. So because we've done one already. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later fellas.